Welcome, everyone. I'm delighted to be here today. I have a very, very special guest with me, Lauren Jublirer. She is a friend of mine from a brand new project that she and I are both involved in Costa Rica. We're helping to build a town and regenerate an entire area in the Machuca Valley in Costa Rica. It's very exciting, and it's also scary and a lot, and we're going for it. And Lauren is one of the gems that has come to me by being involved in this process. And so we've been talking for, gosh, a couple years, I think it's been, right?
Yeah.
And so I had the great benefit of Lauren doing an astrology reading for me at the end of last year. It was a super illuminating. So Lauren is an astrologer of many years, couple of decades, over 2 decades. She's a doctor of Chinese medicine for 35 years. She's also a teacher and a practitioner of shamanic soul retrieval, probably other stuff too, but you're kind of known for soul retrieval. I mean, shamanic practice has a lot in it. So she's, as you can tell, she's a very well-rounded, very richly trained, but also incredible life experience in terms of, because you probably hear me talk a lot about how, information does not transform. Information does not teach. It's when you take what you learn and you live it. And so Lauren has really lived all of these things, and she's actually created her own way of putting these different aspects together. So I just want to say hi, Lauren. Thank you for being willing to come and spend some time with us. I'm really excited. And so I invited Lauren because for those of you who've been following me for a while, I've been getting increasingly interested in astrology. And I think probably at some point down this path, I'm going to have to really study. But for now, I'm going to talk to Lauren because she's a good friend who really has her chops in astrology. And this is being called forth because what's happening this coming weekend, we are recording this here on Tuesday, the 25th of March. And this weekend, the 29th, the 30th, and the 31st, it's kind of like a blast off as far as I can tell. And so what I wanted to do is just ask Lauren if she could come and have a conversation with me about what's going on so that we can illuminate this a bit more from an astrological point of view, because I'm really not adept in that piece. She has some really deep knowledge in that. So I do have my human design point of view on it. But that's why I invited Lauren to come here and be with us today. So I can't wait.
Well, thank you. This is exciting for me. And one of the things that I love about what we're doing in Costa Rica is that this time that we're living in is a time of really making a choice between observing and allowing one's emotions to get really swirling into what is dissolving, what is leaving, what is needing repair. And that all of that shadow of many, many, many thousands of years being expressed in some chaotic and cruel ways, in so many ways. So we can focus our attention on that, or we can begin to repair and regenerate and focus on what do we want to build that has to do with beauty and regeneration. And when you do that, it helps to experience the waves of light that are coming in now as supportive. It helps to experience those waves of light that are coming in now, and I'll describe what that means. Just to make a choice, to allow our fear to come up, to not pretend it's not there, but to not feed the fear, and to make a choice to engage in being a creator of beauty, and to align with the energy and the cycles that are seeding us with what we need. So two things are happening. There's an unraveling happening, and there's a birthing that's happening all at once. And I always tell my clients that we're right on time, and that many, many people who are here right now alive have been preparing for this moment for so many lifetimes. And that it is time. It's like this weekend, honestly, it's like a graduation point. It's like it's we need to step more deeply into our mastery of focusing on what we're birthing at the same time that we are allowing the shadow to come up, to be felt, to be observed, to learn from it, to release it, and then continue to choose love and joy and courage and quality and safety. I always tell my clients that safety isn't something that happens to you from something on the outside. It's something that it's a quality of our souls that we can access regardless of what's happening on the outside. But this weekend, I mean,
Actually, before we go to that, Lauren, can I just ask you to give us a general, because we're in this Pisces-Aries thing, right? And that's part of what is happening this weekend. It's just like, because these planets have all been congregating, right, at the end of Pisces, and now they're moving into Aries, and some of them, like Venus and Mercury, are moving in and out and in and out and in and out. They're doing this little dance together. And then and now we've got Neptune and Saturn are going to move into Aries, and then they're going to retrograde back.
Yes.
But just to say, there's this really interesting, like, lots of intensity around the Pisces Aries shift, which from my understanding is like the biggest shift in the zodiac, because we end the astrological year and we begin a new year, and here we are in the creator degree of 1 degree of Aries. So it's not just that we're changing signs, we're also starting an entire new cycle. But we're not just starting it, we're kind of going, and then we're going back, and then it's a very interesting thing. So can you just kind of more generally, and then let's dive into what's specifically happening?
Yes. So first of all, what's very interesting, there are other cycles that are beginnings and endings that are happening. And in the type of astrology that I work with, we're looking at a 26,000 year cycle that is ending and a new one beginning. But it's 144 years that we're at that point. So we're this transition team. But the intensity of it is now. And so it's very interesting that while that has happened, some people say that the Kali Yuga is ending, but it's not like it ends and then poof, we wake up and we're sprinkled in fairy dust. It's also a much longer process of accessing our higher consciousness, stepping into it, and then behaving as if that's the case. So as you said, Pisces is the final sign of the zodiac. It is about when we have we've played all the cards in the deck, we've gone all the way around, and we've learned all our lessons, and we've grown, and now we are merging into unity consciousness and into the heart of compassion, and into where visions and dreams are born, and into a sense of being interconnected. It's the mystical union with ourselves, with the divine, with each other. And it's also just a completion. So yes, Venus and Mercury have been going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. The sun just crossed that point at the equinox, and Neptune and Saturn are also going back and forth and back and forth. And the nodes went from Aries. So we're playing with this endings and beginnings. And what I want to say to people who are listening is that I don't need to tell you what this is about, because your own inner voice of wisdom is telling you in your own life what's ending and what's beginning. And it's individual. It's individual. But it really is about, in some ways, letting go of defining oneself through material acquisition, or sourcing oneself from what one gives to others only, or feeling like that myth of unworthiness, and how that has affected so many people, are sourcing one's divinity outside of themselves, or one's authenticity outside of, not really connected to oneself. That many aspects of that are dissolving, and we're dissolving our sense of separateness, and we're owning that being that drop of water in the ocean that is aware of itself, being unique, but aware of itself in the ocean and being part of a much larger wave. So all of these planets moving into Aries is the beginning. And it is about, like, the energy of spring. It's the energy of a flower blossom opening. It's the energy of a blade of grass. It's creation. And Aries loves to be starting something new. It's fire of enthusiasm and commitment, and the fire for the worthy cause. and being on the leading edge of change. And so we've got this eclipse happening in Aries on the 29th, which is a seed point for the next 6 months. And eclipses tend to, number one, bring about change quickly. And that's, if you think about the imagery of an eclipse, a lunar eclipse, we go from all the phases of the moon in a few hours. And a solar eclipse, we go from day to night in a few hours. So it's a real acceleration of time. And also, eclipses pull up what we need to see, our willingness to own and observe and transmute aspects of ourselves that we just didn't know about, but that need to change. And so a lot of you, and we are at the time between the eclipses as we're speaking, because the lunar eclipse was the 14th and the solar eclipse is the 29th. And Carolyn Casey calls this the cauldron of transformation, where the water is boiling and things are coming up, and it's like you're on this river and it's getting very choppy. A friend of mine was saying, we used to be paddling in our canoe on the rivers of change. Now we're surfing the waves. We can't even hold on to that. We are surfing these waves of change. And it's like, we can't hold on to what needs to be released. It's too painful, and it's too over, and it's too done. And
I know I had a major awareness that happened with the last eclipse, like a whole area of unconsciousness, which I kind of knew. It's not like it was completely out of left field or something, but I just all of a sudden went, oh, look at that. Wow. It was really extraordinary. I was like, okay, I got to get to work because I got to bring that more into consciousness. Yeah. Very powerful.
And it's really wonderful when that happens, because there's this saying, if you see it, you don't have to be it, right? And another saying, if you feel it, you can heal it. So you put those two together, and that's what eclipses do for us. They help us see things, they help us feel things, and all we need to do is not loop. When you're feeling something, it's great to feel it and let it go. But if we start to feed the feelings and bring more evidence then we get in an energy like this, you can get caught in a tornado. And, you want to be aware that everyone is in this together, and that people's maybe feeling more tension with one another, but it's an opportunity to work through things. And also see, because it's an Aries new moon solar eclipse, it's an opportunity to see what is wanting to be born. What is that flower bud that's opening? You may experience it as energy moving through you. You may have a lot of visions, dreams, intuitions. Pay attention to them, because this is the time that this would be happening. As well as the next day, we have Neptune moving into Aries. Now, this can only happen every 165 years.
So one moment before we go there, I just want to say, in human design, the sun is in the gate 17, and the eclipse is going to happen in the gate 17. And the gate 17, it's interesting that you mentioned it could be a little irritating because the gate 17 is the gate of opinions. Opinions. And it's in the logic circuit. And so that energy can have a distinct edge to it. So that's also, I just want to say, for all of us to be looking at, like, it's good to have a point of view. It's good to express yourself, right? You want to be able to do that. But you want to watch out if you're just expressing your opinion. Now, I have this gate defined in my chart, so I know this energy really well. And I've learned over the years to kind of moderate myself to say, would you like to hear my BFO, which is my big fat opinion? Because I just want to mark it to say, look, this is just my big fat opinion. Okay. You don't have to take it on. You don't have to believe it or whatever. But because it can come across with a lot of energy. Right.
Yes.
And it can have this edge. It can have a judgmental edge. If you already have a tendency to kind of fall into that good, bad, right, wrong thing, the 17, your expression of the 17 can really fall into that. So I don't know how that might relate to the Aries.
Totally.
But just mention that piece. Yeah.
I mean, the shadow of Aries is fighting for the sake of fighting, arguing for the sake of arguing, being impatient, being irritable. It's an imbalance in the fire element, the shadow of Aries. And of course, with a being overly warlike. Now, Aries can be the flowering of a spring blossom, and Aries can be like, I'm gonna hit you over the head with this. So it is important to move your body. This isn't a dynamic energy. It's moving a lot within us. Move your body. Slow yourself down when your nervous system's feeling like it's short fused. Be with nature. I always like to ask the trees to help ground me. And when I'm near a moving body of water and I'm lucky enough to live near a river, I just imagine that water coming through the top of my head and moving through my body and cooling me down, cooling my jets down, because I think I might have the same gait as you. And I have a lot of Aries in my chart, and it's a blessing, very inspiring. And but the shadow needs to be tended. And
and the 17 can fall into the need to be right.
Oh yeah.
That's one of the things you really want to watch out for. And also to know everyone is being influenced by this energy. So you may be on top of it, but notice if other people have an amplified need to be right, and just give them some grace.
Yes.
Give them some grace. Like they're being influenced by this energy. They may not even realize it. And because it's easy when one of these gates, there's a few gates that are like this, get amplified, where people start to fight. Yes. Right. We can get into conflict. And there's so much conflict energy, war energy being expressed on the planet right now. We have to work extra hard not to go into it. And, I'm an Aries sun, like I know the war thing. I mean, believe me, I've done my dance with Mars, and and I actually, you'll love this. I'll just throw this in here for any of you who are Aries sun, but I got the message in my meditation the other day, lay down your sword and shield.
Yes.
Lay it down. It's time to lay it down. And I think that's kind of collectively where we are, but it really hit me. And I was just like, yeah, okay, I can lay down my sword and shield. Finally, really, how many lifetimes have I been carrying my sword and shield? So that's the blessing, right? It's lay it down.
And that's what this eclipse is also about. It's like, how can we transform the shadow of Aries into the possibility, the medicine of Aries, which is inspired, committed action, which is leading the way into new territory, which is like this brilliant light, this radiant light that is willing to show up and take action for what one believes in. Now, with Neptune moving into Aries, Neptune brings compassion. It brings, brings these two. Neptune is a higher octave of Pisces. So it's again this dynamic between Pisces and Aries. So Pisces is the mystic, the dreamer, the visionary, the heart, the open heart. And in Aries, it's this waves and waves and waves of new incoming energy that is carrying love, compassion, empathy. It is about taking our visions and putting them into action, taking our dreams and doing the thing with them that we want to do, that we need to do. It is putting together that feeling, that felt sense that love is always the answer to everything, feeling it and feeling that sense of being held in hands that are bigger than yours, and having that come in waves and waves over the weekend. Now, Neptune can also be confusing and dissolving, and Neptune dissolves the old self. So the old stories that we've been living, the story of separation, the story of fighting, the story of I'm right, that we're really seeing activated in the world, and we can see it in ourselves with this eclipse. And then Neptune is about, like you said, laying it down. But it's not just asking us to lay it down. Neptune is like this medicine coming in. It's a real energy that's that is dissolving the old self and assisting us into stepping into a new way of being with ourselves and each other that is about open-heartedness. It is about giving each other a break. Like, oh, maybe this person's like being activated today. Maybe I don't get into it with them. Maybe I have some compassion for both of us because we're both in our stuff right now. And the thing is that it's going to be easier and easier to put down those swords if you understand that that's what you're being asked to do, that this is being activated, but this new energy over the next 14 years, Neptune is in Aries, but it's like the activation point, the seed point is this weekend, and the frequency shifting dramatically. It can feel disorienting, and it can also feel like bliss as long as you realize we're in somewhat of an altered state of consciousness, and you're not trying to be the old person, the old you. And so knowing that you're being assisted in so many ways to step into your expanded heart, to step into your inner voice of wisdom, to step into your dreams and your visions, and to see one another for the light that we are more and more. But we have to make a choice. So the fear or the anger comes up, we need to make a choice not to energize it and to feel it, and then to step into the love that is waiting for us to step in, that is right there energetically. But we need to cooperate. And that's why knowing that it's happening is actually helpful, because it takes an action on our part. Otherwise, it can just feel like, whoa, totally disoriented and grasping. And you're going to see this, of course, we are seeing this in the world, grasping at the old story of power over, separation, of might makes right. That's the old story. But you are here to energize and activate and put into action, which is Aries. Let's put it into action with total enthusiasm, the new story of connection, the new story of collaboration, the new story of regeneration. Okay, so that's...
I love that. No, I love that. That is just so heartwarming, heart opening, inspiring, because I think a lot of us, have been in this place where we're like, okay, we're really wanting to create the new earth. We're evolving ourselves. We've been doing our practices. We've been like gathering and doing ceremony, been like it's been years, like we've been working at it. Right. And we're like, okay. And I know there's a part of me that's like, I don't know what I'm going to see in my lifetime. Right. I don't know. Right. But now apparently we're actually on the cusp of this actually really changing in a way that many of us are going to feel. And of course, as soon as friggin' Pluto went into Aquarius, all kinds of stuff. And then it's hit January, like all hell broke loose. And so there's a part where you're like, oh my God, like the world stage is like, on fire, but then we're inside going, no, but we don't want to fight. We don't want to be a part of that anymore. I don't want to no, I don't want to do that. But what do I do? Right. That is the thing. And I wrote down a little note. I want to know if you think this is right, but for this, which was out of the dream into action, right? Out of the dream. Not that we leave the dream behind, but we're not just staying in the dream, which is kind of what I felt like with Neptune and Pisces so much, was really being in that visionary place. But now, it's like moving into Aries, we've got legs, because Neptune's like, oh, where are we? I don't know. We're in a beautiful, undifferentiated space when anything's possible. And Aries like, I'm on my feet. Yeah. Where am I going? Where am I marching to? Right? Like, what am I doing?
Great line for clarity. Aries brings some clarity, and different people will get activated at different times. This weekend is more of an initiation. And so it's not like, don't worry if by the end of the weekend you don't have total clarity about your dreams, but take time to absorb the energy, and also know that there's stuff swirling in you that's wanting to release. And
so doing breath work, doing Kundalini yoga, walking in, taking baths, doing cold plunges, saunas, being out in nature, getting in rivers, getting in live water if you can, all of that really
listening to music. Don't stress about it. Just, this is a transmission. Just allow yourself to be like I always imagine like I'm a rose opening, and I'm opening to receive the sunlight in every cell of my body. And just maybe a few times throughout the day, just imagine that. Or imagine, or just, imagine, or when you see the sun, just imagine that sunlight pouring through you. Or like a sponge absorbing the light that's coming in. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to know what you're going to do. And be careful, don't, be careful with your driving this weekend. It's, if we were in an ancient time, you'd be put into a pyramid, your name would be taken, you'd be going through death and rebirth rituals, and you would know that it was not a normal time. But we've already done that. We've already been there. We've done that. And so now we're going through these pretty deep initiations while we go to the grocery store, while we pick up our kids from school, while we, work, have dinner with friends. And, one thing I do want to say is that I do teach these shamanic journey classes. And about 10 years ago, one of my practices is that I have journeyed to my descendants 7 generations into the future. And it doesn't matter if you don't have children, because you're going to have soul descendants. Your oversoul field will probably have some humans down here. So, not definitely, but you can connect to 7 generations in the future. And I asked, what do you need from me now so that you can live the most regenerative, the most positive version of reality, the most satisfying version of reality and healed version of reality? And they gave me a list, my descendants, but the main thing was work on trauma. That was in 2015. So this past week, I led a group of people, and then to journey to our descendants. And it was the first time many of these people had done it. I didn't tell them anything about my journey. And sure enough, many people's descendants, one of the things that was very clear is that they had learned to process trauma very quickly. And they were speaking in the language of light, and they were living close to the earth. They were living simply. They were doing a lot of healing ceremonies. I mean, it was very beautiful. But so what I realized was that since from 2016 to now, all of the millions of people who've been working, whether you're a coach or you're a healer or you're a therapist, we've all been working with releasing trauma, whether it's past life, childhood, ancestral. There's been a wave of this. And what we're seeing is that wave has already, we've shifted the collective morphic field, probably our DNA, and that 7 generations into the future, people have been impacted by it. And we don't see that every day. We're looking around going, oh my God, things seem like, all the darkest, it's all coming up. Are we having an impact? We are having an impact. It's just, it's not as obvious, so we have to pay attention. And also just the fact that you and I are moving to a regenerative community, we are creating a seed of something that hopefully will affect the next 7 generations, is putting something into effect that we will work with to create something that works, that hasn't existed yet, this type of a community. And that's just one example of many things that are happening on the ground in real time for people, that people are getting involved with projects that are regenerative. And that's going to continue to happen.
There are many positive actions that you can take where you don't have to be fighting something. And I've felt for a really long time, I love the Buckminster Fuller quotation, right? It's like, don't fight the old system, create a new one that makes the old one obsolete. Right.
Yes.
I love that one. I've always felt that, because I would way rather be creative than fight. Even though I can tell in my soul's journey, I've fought a lot, I would really rather not do that. I would rather create. And so, yes, that what we're involved in is one project, but there are many things all over the planet that people are doing that I love. And so you absolutely can step into action without having to fight. And even if you do go into an action, like if you decide to go to a protest, for example, like thousands and tens of thousands of people are protesting right now. If you decide to go to a protest, try to do it with love. right?
Yes.
Rather than like have your own energy by one with your heart open, where this is for the highest good of all, where we're not actually enemies, right? If you can hold that in your heart in the midst of all these people who are like fighting, like that, you would be amazed at who you can influence in that way, right?
Yes.
Because that's a lot of what we're needing to do, is to be like, okay, we can be in an environment that can be chaotic, it can be coercive, that how do we, because the one thing we have command over is our own energy, right? And that, we have to work at it. Sometimes we fall into our darkness, of course, but just it's the one thing we really can work on. And I think the more that we do that, it's going to influence all of us in a positive way.
I think of like soup, and like there's a lot of ingredients going into the soup right now that are bitter and overly sour, and that if each person puts in something sweet and beautiful, it's the collective field. We need to be taking responsibility for what we are putting into the collective field. And I am in a singing group, and sometimes our singing group goes to protests, but we sing songs of love, and we create a vibration of connection. And I have a story from a retreat I was at this weekend where this man was saying that there were two people at the retreat, and one person had voted for one person in the United States, the other person had voted for the other, and they were with each other. And then they were like, why did you vote for the person you voted for? And one person said, because I believe in freedom. And then the other person said, that's why I voted for the person that I voted for. And then they burst out laughing, and they hugged each other, and they realized they wanted the same things. They just believed there were different paths to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And that is true for many, many people.
And Lauren, I just want to say, because we were just recently at a festival at the location, in our new development, and one of the things we did was an exercise that was like that, and it was pretty edgy, because we're taking like 150 people. Most of us don't really know each other very well. We're all like going to this community, and we're kind of like, what are we doing? How are we going to do this? And so we had this little exercise where there was a prompt, which was provocative. And it was like, okay, and the instruction was, okay, if you 100% agree with this prompt, you stand on this side. And if you 100% disagree, you stand on this side. And then you choose a spot in between based on the degree to which you believe or don't believe, right? So, and then you were supposed to go into a group of 3 people, one from each side and one from the middle. And when I did that, and I was like, okay, this can be really interesting. And all we did was listen to each other. 2 minutes. You just share your point of view. And you know what? By the time we got to the end, it was very similar, Lauren. We were all kind of like, I don't think we're actually very far apart from each other. It was actually very similar when we actually got to talk about what it meant to us. So I think that is so common, right? Is that it's like there's some energetic force. I don't want to go into what it is, but there's some energetic force that has been stimulating fight and separation among human beings for a very long time. But when we actually are with each other, or in a situation where there's a crisis, right? What do people do? It's like, oh, I'm not going to go help that person because they voted for the opposite candidate. It's like, no, I'm going to go get them and make sure their kids get in my car so we can get out of here before the fire comes. Or the hurricane, because Lauren lives in North Carolina. She wasn't where the Helene was. But
that is exactly what happened in North Carolina. People didn't ask who are you voting for. They asked, do you need water? And people came together. And, and that was important. And so, yes, I love the idea of becoming irresistible, becoming an attractor field of love, of connection, of belonging, and becoming irresistible instead of fighting against, doing something that's so like, what are they doing over there? They're having fun. They're, and we're, come join us. So it's like, so the question really is, how can you step into that? And it can be in small, sweet ways, like noticing that your neighbor needs food, that is going through a medical procedure, or noticing that someone's really depressed and giving them a painting that just finding ways to express your love and your caring, and choosing that over obsessing about what's happening that is really bothering you. And I am so not suggesting that you avoid knowing what's happening in the world or avoid feeling anything. It's but not feeding it and looping it, because it is like a tornado. That once you get into it, it really
It sucks you
it
down.
rips you apart. And there's another energy that you can connect to. It's subtler, and it requires your choice. And it feels like a beautiful day, and the water is warm, and like you're being held and suspended in the ocean, and the ocean's like 88 degrees, and who is holding you? Like angelic beings and Kuan Yin, and just like loving beings that are and you're dissolving into that. It's not an effort, but it's a choice of noticing that energy is happening right now too.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to like feel, do the work, but to move the energy that's moving through us that is uncomfortable, and then step into that water of love that is available in a way that is stronger than you have known in your life. And that is happening, okay, this weekend. And we'll continue. And then on the 31st, Venus, the planet of love, she rises as a morning star. And Venus has a very visual and predictable cycle. And the ancient ones, the Sumerians in particular, created their myth of Inanna based on watching what was going on in the night sky and in the morning sky. And so what was going on, and also in Mesoamerica and many indigenous cultures, because Venus is such a stunning visual experience. And it's so predictable, her cycle. Many cultures, I mean, in the Mayan culture, there are so many temples that are tracking the cycles of Venus, and women have quinceañeras. The quinceañera has to do with when you are having a personal Venus cycle. We have Venus cycles every 8 years in our life. And so 15, 16, and we have sweet 16s. Where does that come from? What's so sweet about it? Because it's a Venus return. It's an activation of the divine feminine inside of you. So what happens is that every 584 days, Venus starts a whole new cycle. She's starting a whole new cycle on the 31st, and it's the Pisces overstory. So we're again in this big love, big creativity, mysticism, healing energy that we are being asked, what do we need to let go of in order to access this? So what happens is that for the next 8 months, right before sunrise, Venus will rise. Well, yeah, she will rise as a morning star. So she's not visible in the night sky. She's visible in the morning. And once a month, you're going to see her with the crescent moon. What is the image of the crescent moon and a star? It's in Middle East, it's their flag. It's Islam. It's basically Venus in the boat. So when Venus, what happened was, is it okay if I get into this, or should I do this?
Yeah.
Okay. So what happened was that they were noticing that Venus was once a month. Like if you put your fist up to the morning sky, you would see the moon and Venus very close. That's within 10 degrees. That's a conjunction. And so they would see that once a month, and then Venus would disappear for 3 months. You wouldn't see her in the night. You wouldn't see her in the morning. And then she would reappear in the evening for 7 or 8 months. And we would see once a month Venus in the crescent moon. And we just completed that. And then she went back underground. And that really means she's not really underground. She's so close to the sun that we can't see her. So Venus is receiving a transmission from the source of life and then rising up to start again. So what they saw was Venus, the divine feminine, and they called her Inanna, was once a month in the morning in this boat. So there's this myth of Inanna going to visit her sister in the underworld, because there are different stories, but the story I know is that Ereshkigal's husband had died. He was the bull. He was the age of Taurus. I think his name was Tamuzi. And anyway, it was the end. It was the funeral for the age of Taurus. So of course, Inanna had to go, and she goes through, and each time that she gets on that boat, she goes through another lock, and she releases something. First she releases her crown, then she releases her bindi, then she releases her necklace, then her, and it's like she's releasing all what no longer serves her. And finally she gets into the underworld with her sister, and her sister, I wrote this down, Inanna was turned into a corpse, a piece of rotting meat, and was hung from a hook on a wall. Have you ever felt that way? Just totally surrender to forces beyond your control. Anyway, she knew this was going to happen, because this is what happens when we go through death, rebirth, and regeneration. And when we go into the underworld to meet our shadow, we're stripped naked. And so she knew that she might not get out of this alive. And so she asks Ninshabar and Enki to help her. Ninshabar is Mercury. And right now, as we are speaking, Venus is conjunct Mercury. So Mercury's with Venus in the underworld, with Saturn, who's Enki, who is the god of wisdom and water, and they're helping her. How do they help her? They talk to Ereshkigal and they say, hey, we're here for you. You seem to be in pain. And so she starts complaining, like, my sister, everyone loves her. She's the queen of the skies, and she gets to be light and bright, and I'm stuck here in the underworld, and nobody wants to feel their dark feelings, and nobody wants to visit me, and my husband just died. And they listen to her, and they name her pain back to her. And of course, when that happens, we feel better. So she's like, I feel better. I will grant you any wish. And they're like, well, we want Inanna's corpse. And then they sprinkle the waters of life. And then she returns as an evening star. And once a month, she meets with the moon, and she's going through these different locks. And she's getting these transmissions once a month of what is returning to her in a new way. And this takes 580 days. And so I just want to tell you that if you're up before sunrise, I have the dates when Venus is conjunct the moon, and that is April 24th, May 23rd, June 22nd, July 21st, August 20th, September 19th, October 19th, and November 18th. If you're up before sunrise, you will see Venus with the moon. And it's really, you can ask yourself, what do I need to release, to let go of? How is this conjunction assisting me in releasing something that no longer serves me, especially around how I hold myself as separate or alone? And see what happens. Then she goes, you're not going to see Venus from November 18th to February 18th, 2026. And then you will have these evening sky conjunctions. February 18th, 2026, March 20th. Maybe I should just give this to you and you could put a link to it or something. But
yeah,
it's every month. So it's April 19th, May 18th.
yeah, it's about the middle of the month, right around the 20th.
And you'll see the crescent moon in the evening, August 16th, September 14th, and it starts again. And so the feminine, how interesting, is always going through these cycles every 584 days. She's teaching us how to die and be reborn and regenerate every 584 days. But she's starting her new cycle the day after. So there's all this new energy. And
I want to just say one thing, Lauren, before you go on, which was Lauren and I were recently in Costa Rica together for this festival I was describing, and we were at a restaurant up high on a hill, beautiful view and everything. You remember this? And I looked out and I was like, oh my God, there's the moon and Venus. And they were just like, and I was like, and I got such a transmission that night. As soon as I saw them, I was like, whoa, I don't know what's coming at me, but man, it's powerful. It was strong. And so that was a few weeks ago.
It was like an eighth chakra. And I think I said to you, just be with it. Let's not, there said, you don't want to have too many understandings or words, because when we can see something in the night sky or the morning pre-dawn hours, we are receiving a transmission. And so we just want to be with it. And that's the same is true with eclipses. You know, you want to be
heady about it, right? I mean, we can learn some things, but yeah.
You want to feel it and have an intention and allow yourself to receive the energy. So that's what I would say is a good way to spend this weekend, is in a state of receptivity and awareness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you have a particular, like, so here Venus is going to reappear. It's the first time she's reappearing. And is that her star point? I was hearing somebody talk about star point. That might, or is that what that is, or is something else?
when Venus is exactly conjunct the sun. And I think that might be today or yesterday where they're exact. I'm just going to take a look at my, so it's like when the sun is like a certain degree and Venus is the same exact degree, that is, it's really powerful. That's a star point.
So that's her star point. And then does she return? Does she come up as the morning star after that? I guess it could go either way. I'm not sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, because let me just view the wheel. Oh, actually, this was a while back. So the sun is at 5 degrees Aries and Venus is at 3 degrees Aries. Wait, is that? Yeah, that's today. Yeah. But on the 31st, they're going to be 10 degrees apart. That's how you can see it. If Venus
That's
is
when
within,
she reoccurs, is when they get far enough apart.
you can't see her. So right now there were really, so,
and one
yeah,
thing I'll just say while you're finding that, Lauren, one thing I'll just say, for those of you who are maybe not, so embedded in the astrology and everything, but just to think about, so in human design, Venus represents our values, what we care most about, what matters most to us. But of course, Venus is also our divine feminine energy, right? And I love this. This is like our divine feminine energy coming back. And of course, she comes back every, whatever, 586 days, or right. I mean, it's the cycle repeats, but it's happening right here, right after Neptune goes into, right when Neptune goes into Aries, and there's this Aries solar eclipse. So it's like supercharging the rise of the feminine. I just get like I don't need to know the astrology to get excited about that.
And so Venus is retrograde, and so she's going backwards into Pisces. So as she's moving backwards, she's moving away from the sun, but she's also conjunct. So when she rises, she's going to be at 27 degrees Pisces, exactly conjunct the North Node in Pisces. What is that? The North Node is our collective destiny. So there's something, and so it's this Aries, Pisces, Aries, Pisces. Pisces is love, creativity, the visionary, the healer, that felt sense that love is real and love is the universe, and that everything else is something we make up in some ways. And Pisces is the ability to create a safe space for people to have their predicament and to hold that space of love. And also, it's just incredibly mystical, incredibly full of love. So that Venus, that feminine energy, is moving into this conjunct the collective destiny at the time that Neptune moves into Aries the next day, which is like Aries is like bringing in this high energy into the world with, as you said, legs, with action. And so it's a pretty important graduation point for all of us. It's an initiation point of choosing to make space to feel that sweetness, that love that you are, that can never be removed from you. It's just that we don't always pay attention. So.
Yeah. And what I really was getting just from our conversation is, it's kind of this sense like, okay, yes, we are moving forward into Aries. Yes, we are going to have this, forward, powerful agency coming in. We're going to have legs, but don't forget the love, right?
Yeah.
Forget the compassion. Don't forget your vision of what's possible. Because and I can say, as an Aries sun, we can forget. Like, we get just so like engaged with like, what are we doing next? Let's go, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's okay. But remember the love. Remember, and it's kind of like, okay, we're going to move forward, but let's just go back and remember the love here, right? And go like, yeah, I really got that from just our conversation today. Yeah, that's rich. Yeah.
You had said something about gate 25 being also.
Oh, yeah, Neptune. So Neptune's in gate 25, which is the gate of the love of spirit. And it's on the G center. So in human design, we have 2 centers that make up the heart chakra. And the G center is what we think of as the heart chakra. It's the center for love and lovability, identity, and direction. So it's what we think of as the heart chakra, whereas the will is like willpower, courage, value, the kind of the oomph that goes with the heart. And so the 25 is in the what's called the centering circuit, which is part of individual circuitry. So individual circuitry is here to be different. It's here to bring change. It doesn't fit in. It's not meant to fit in. It's on that leading edge of consciousness. So the 25 is in that. And not only that, it's part of the channel of the shaman or the priest or the priestess, which connects the will center to the G center. So we've got these two centers and there's a channel that connects them. And the 25 connects to the other part of the heart through the shamanic channel. So Neptune has been there and it's going to be there, I think, through the end of the year. Like Neptune stays in a long time, because Neptune's got a long cycle, right?
Yeah.
And so, and Neptune was in there in Pisces, and the 25 is also one of the few gates. There's a couple of them that do this. The 41 is another one, which Pluto just did with the Aquarian and Capricorn thing, right? All inside the same gate in human design. Well, so Neptune is kind of mirroring that, only in a different place, where it's in the same gate. So it's still in the love of spirit, but it's going back and forth between Pisces and Aries. And I'm just getting this sense of like, okay, yes, this is a major change. And yes, you're going to dissolve a lot of things as you move forward. But remember to carry some of it with you. Remember to carry that love and that compassion, and that sense that we're in it together and that we can envision a new world. And so, because it's easy when you get into Aries to be just so action oriented, you almost forget what you're doing. I mean, that can happen. You're just so like, and it's like, wait a minute, what's the big picture of what we're doing here?
Okay, I think that these planets moving, Neptune's going to move forward in Aries, but it's going to go back at 29 degrees Pisces this year, and then back. And Saturn will do the same thing. It's going to move into Aries in May and then go back. And when we go back, if we are quiet and observant, our inner voice of wisdom will show us what we need to let go of and what we need to hold and bring with us so that we can be conscious creators, because the energy is speeding up so rapidly with so many outer planets being in fire and air. And we see this in the environment, different manifestations of too much wind and too much fire that can lead to, so that's why it's like you want to get really conscious with your intention. You want to slow down. When you feel like you're getting too fiery, you want to lay down on the ground. You want to connect to the earth, because we do not have a lot of planets in earth signs. So we need to consciously create that for ourselves, to slow ourselves down and our nervous systems down so that we can step into that, open up that love. Sometimes you just need to put your hand on your heart and feel yourself offering that love, feeling your heart dissolve. The other thing I want to say is this is a time to align your personal will to divine will, and where that can get clear. If you're quiet and listen, that can get really clear. And when we are aligned with divine will or higher self, synchronicities happen and magic happens. And that's the other thing about Neptune. Neptune is like bringing the magic. So
I love that. And we could use some magic right around now, I think.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll have less flooding, right? When Neptune moves in Aries.
I don't know about
Paris is underwater again.
I don't know. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, I know, because I was like, oh gosh, Paris is underwater, and I just thought we've had so much flooding the last couple of years. It's just been so massive.
Neptune is the ocean, it is the water, and Aries is fast moving. So I'm not sure that we're not gonna, it's hard to know. That was one other thing that I really want to say about all of this, is that we don't know. We don't know what the future is going to bring. We think we know, psychics think they know, but this is about getting comfortable with being in the not knowing and trusting the process, that there's something so much bigger than what we understand, and that that we're in the process, and that we will know when we need to know what's going to happen next. And that what we can do is contribute authentic, aligned, coherent action that is thoughtful and aligned with our soul qualities of joy and love and connection and inspiration and true courage and true strength. That's an energy that emanates from us, that isn't a thought that becomes an action. It's a quality of being that becomes a thought that becomes an action.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I'll just say here, and we can start wrapping up, is that I was just listening to Lee Harris, who I think you know, and he was just quoting something from, because his third book on the future human just came out, and he was just quoting something with that his guides, the Z's, were saying, which was kind of counterpoise to what you said, which is they were like, predictions don't make any sense right now. The timelines are changing so fast that we actually can't make accurate predictions. And that's from like the Z's. So I was like, so just to your point, right? It's just like, we just have to really learn how to be very good surfers, to have really good resilience and buoyancy, and to find, some of the energy, enjoy as much as we can, even though there's like stuff happening that we're not happy about. But how do we find the fun? How do we find the joy? How do we bring up that buoyancy and have play alongside of the work as well? Because I think that that's a big piece that's going to carry us through during this time, where and also, being playful, being creative, being buoyant, being resilient, all of that, it helps us to enjoy life.
And that's a positive quality of Aries, all of that. That's coming in.
Yeah. So, Lauren, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. It's been delightful. And how can people find you? And are you offering things right now that people can tap into, or can they get on an email list or something? How can they get more about you?
Website, Lauren Jublirer, you see how my name is spelled, .com. I am offering a one-day introduction to shamanic journeying on April 12th. And I'm offering a 5-day soul retrieval retreat in June, but you need some experience for that. And then I have a monthly journey circle where we do things like journey to our descendants and journey to our wise council of elders. And it's very healing. And I offer astrology readings, which I love to give.
Yeah, she's great.
So LaurenJublirer.com, you'll just see different things there. Thank you.
Things there. Yeah. So connect with Lauren, and she has a lot to offer, and you can see from so many different places, whether it's shamanism or whether it's Chinese medicine or whether it's astrology or whatever. She's a complete package, this woman.
And what I want to do is pick mangoes and make mango jam in Costa Rica. I want to plant mango trees, and no, that's not true. I am.
Well, we'll do that too.
Yeah. Yes.
But we can only make mango juice for so long, and then we're going to want to do something else. So
yes.
So I'll put the link. I'll put the link to your website below. If you do want to share the piece with the dates, I can put those in the description also. And I just want to say to everybody, like, one of the most important things you can do right now is just be kind. And be kind to yourself first. Yeah. Because I think there's a lot of self-judgment that's coming up for clearing. I know I've been needing a lot of my own internal self-judgment. Yeah. And so be kind, when it comes up, don't believe it, just be like, oh, that's coming up to be cleared. Right. And so be kind to yourself, be kind to each other, like take an extra step. Give people grace if they're, whatever, expressing in a way you don't enjoy. Of course, be safe. But I think that the more, because people are in, all of these waves of energy, and I know a lot of you have been tracking like the solar storms and the incredible aurora borealis we've been in, and the sun being activated by being next to the galactic center. And I mean, so we've just been like, there's a lot coming in, raising up our light and our frequency, and really kind of, I mean, if we are to take the human design and also the gene keys prophecy, right, we are literally changing our DNA. We are literally becoming a future human. right? And the more that we can already be in the energy of that, which kindness and compassion and generosity and play and joy and all of those things is a part of, and also the more we can do our practices that help bring more light into our form as well. Because that facilitates the process too. Because as the light's coming in, if we can open up more and let more of the light in, we do grow our light body. And that can also help mitigate some of the uncomfortable aspects. And it's actually really pleasurable too. So why not have pleasure, right? As opposed to discomfort. Why not? So, Lauren, is there anything you'd like to share as we close?
I really enjoyed hearing about how human design is interfacing with the astrology. It's really fascinating. And I really appreciate that. And one thing I would say is that when a lot of energy is coming in like this and moving, that we need more minerals.
Mm,
And sometimes electrolytes. So if you physically start to feel like your heart starts racing, or you're having trouble sleeping, or you don't feel grounded, take some good mineral supplements.
get more
Eat,
earth in your body.
eat some more, mineral-rich foods, some seaweed. Yeah.
Right? I mean, what are minerals, right? It's Gaia in microscopic form, and we need her. We need her blessing. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great, Lauren. Thank you so much. And thanks for all of you who are here. And please do let us know how this landed for you in the comments. We would love to hear, and I would love to hear if you'd like me to continue to do more of these interviews. Please let me know. And because I would love to provide them, just give me some feedback because I always love to hear from you. All right. Bye, everybody. Love for now.